Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's quick project turned out to be quite a little bit of a headache. We had a slow running drain, and when the drain was running slow, we figured we'd just snake it out and clear it out to find out what it was. But the problem we ran into is we couldn't get our snake to go through it, so we tried to remove a clean out plug, and as you can see, the clean out plug just snapped right off. So what we did is we grabbed our Sawzall, we went in there and we cut in 4 different places around the plug with the Sawzall. We then got in there and we collapsed it with a pair of large channel lock pliers and a screwdriver. We hammered it down until it was actually, that chunk of that section fell out. Once it fell out, then we were able to come back in here, squeeze it back together, and then rotate it out and take it out. As you can see, there's a significant amount of rust down inside that pipe. So we really don't have a lot of choices but to get in here and get that rust out of there so we can put it all back together and that the water will flow correctly. Now what happened is there was rust built up inside there. That's why we couldn't get through. One thing I just want to point out, when you're cutting into this plastic clean out plug on here, you don't want to cut and damage the threads of the pipe itself. So we just cut along the plastic enough to get it to twist and come out. Alright, so now we're going to come down on the very bottom. As you know, this is a lead joint down in here, so we're not going to do anything with that. We're going to come up in here with a Sawzall and we're going to cut out this whole existing part right here, and we're going to replace it with all PVC. So that way we won't have to worry about it clogging up again as this one did. Now granted, this is very old, but with the PVC it's a lot easier to install it, and it'll last just about forever. So we're going to take out all of these pipes, and as you can see, we had our air conditioner dripping into the bucket right there while we're working because the AC is running and the water is dripping down in there. So we're going to come up here, we're going to cut it all out, and we'll get started. Let me show you what we're going to use to replace it. This is the new sink, and this is all the different attachments that we're going to use. We have a new faucet, and of course new supply lines to go with it as well, and of course a brand new trap for down the bottom of the sink. And we have a couple of other things just in case we need it. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Alright, so let's get down there. We're going to cut through the pipe itself. It's actually really hard, as you can tell. It is cast iron. So it is a slow process to cut through it, but we're just going to stay with it with the Sawzall, and we're going to wind up cutting right through it. We left enough on there so we can get our rubber sleeve with the metal jacket over the top, so we can actually hold on to it and it doesn't come off or leak. All right, so after we cut this through, we're going to go up to the top, and we're going to do the exact same thing up on top. As you can see here, when we're cutting that pipe down here, look at all the rust that's just falling out of there. So that pipe is actually clogged pretty significantly. Alright, so we're going to come up top here and we're going to cut it out on the top right here. As you can see, we cut it most of the way through, and now we're going to twist it and we're going to pull the whole assembly out. Alright, so now that we have it out, we're going to grab our new pieces and we're going to put it in. Now up the top, when we cut out the top too, remember how we cut out that plastic? We did the exact same thing up on top to cut out that broken piece of pipe that was up in the knuckle right there. So we cut it about probably like 90% of the way through, and then we got in there with a hammer and a chisel and we just tapped on it until it actually folded in on top of itself, and then we pulled it out. Now we screwed in our adapter up on the top that's screwed into the existing pipe. We then glued everything back together, making sure that we put a clean out in there at the same time. We have our sleeve down on the bottom. Now you know, to be up to code, you have to have a metal jacket around that sleeve, so that's exactly what we have down there. And that's it, so it's nice and tight. And then we're going to come down, we'll put our other piece of piping in there too. We're just going to measure everything, and then we're going to cut. And of course, you can cut the piping with a Sawzall. It's a very easy cut when you're cutting through that. All right, so we're going to measure the length that we have to cut it, and we'll cut this to length, glue it, and then we'll put it in. So next we cut the pipe that's going to lead over to our sink. You can see we put in the T connector to go over to the sink itself. The pipe is cut to the length we need. Next we're going to put the sink in there. We're going to replace the faucet first. We're going to cut this old faucet out, and then we'll put new valves on it, and we'll install the new faucet before we put the sink back in there. Alright, so let's grab our Sawzall, and let's get in there and let's cut those valves off. Now I just want to point this out. Before you get in there and start cutting anything, make sure that you turn the water supply off so that you don't have a flood in your basement. We did turn the water off, so we know that everything was 100% off and it wasn't going to leak. The water that you see coming out of there now, that's just the residual water that was laying inside the pipe itself. So we'll cut this out. And once it's out, now we'll grab our valves, put our valves on there, tighten them on. Now these valves are actually a valve that has what's called a ferrule inside of it. You put it onto the old existing copper pipe, you tighten it down, and when it tightens it down, it'll keep it from leaking where the pipe was cut off to accommodate the new valve. Alright, so our sink is in, the valves are in, supply lines are in. We then ran a small bead of silicone around the back of it where the sink comes up against the wall, just so that water doesn't get down there when we're working. Now down the bottom right here, you can see we're going to need to put some kind of an adapter in here to get it to line up with the drain in the sink itself. So let's do our calculations, let's cut our pipes, and we'll stick them in there, and we'll start to wrap this up, and we're just about finished. Alright, so this is what we come up with. We put our elbows in there to give us a little bit of a distance away from the wall so we can get over there and connect it into the drain on the sink itself. Alright, let's run a pipe in there now and we'll connect the drain in down the bottom. And once the drain is connected, or the trap is connected down the bottom, then we're ready to put the plug in the sink and fill it up and make sure we have no leaks. Alright, so this is everything together. The trap is installed. Everything is nice and tight. Let's put the plug in the top of it, fill it up with water, and we make sure we don't have any leaks in the system at all. Alright, here we go. Let's fill this sink up. We're going to get a couple of inches of water in there, maybe an inch or two, and then we'll pull the plug and make sure we don't have any kind of leaks at all down the bottom. Should be nice and dry. Alright, we're going to look at the same time to make sure we have no leaks in the valves themselves. We connected up our washing machine hose, and of course we put our little tether on there, or a zip tie to hold it in place so it doesn't fall out by accident. As you can see, that drains out really pretty good now. So I know we're nice and clear and nothing to worry about. We're going to go down the bottom, take a look down the bottom, make sure we have no leaks. Make sure we have no leaks from any of the fittings that we installed. Everything looks perfect. Alright, and that sink, remember I told you about that sink? That's what it looks like. Now when I tell you that sink was heavy, that thing was really heavy. There's just no way we're going to be using that old sink again. It was actually made of cement with reinforcing wire inside of it. So we needed a sledgehammer to break it up just so we can get rid of it and get it out of the house. But that's it. This job is done and we're on to the next one. Alright, it does come in very handy having a very large sledgehammer to break it up. Trying to do it with a small hammer, it's just not going to happen. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.